Imagine two people. They sleep the same number of hours, eat similar food, work similar jobs. Yet one wakes up energized, the other wakes up exhausted. Most people think they know the answer. Poor sleep, too much work, too much stress, and sometimes that's true. But there's another reason that's much harder to see. Because it doesn't feel like exhaustion, it feels normal. You wake up tired, push through the day, collapse into bed, repeat. After enough years, you stop asking what's wrong. You start assuming that's just who you are. I'm always tired. This is just how I function. But what if the exhaustion isn't coming from your body? What if it's coming from something you're doing hundreds of times every single day? Something so common that almost nobody notices it anymore. Here's a question. When was the last time you stood in a line without checking your phone? Or sat in silence during a car ride? Or ate a meal without watching, listening, scrolling, or reading something? Most people can't remember, because every empty moment gets filled immediately. And that seems harmless, until you realize what your brain is actually doing. Most people think mental energy gets drained by difficult work, but psychologists have discovered something called attention residue. Imagine you're working on one thing, then a notification appears. Now part of your attention moves there. Then another message, another thought, another video, another problem. You switch again, and again, and again. And the strange thing is that your attention doesn't fully return. A small piece stays behind every time, like leaving tiny fragments of yourself scattered throughout the day. Most people do this dozens, even hundreds of times before lunch. And that's where things start getting interesting. Because the brain isn't designed for constant switching, it needs periods of recovery, not sleep. Recovery. There's a difference. Sleep restores the body. Recovery restores attention. And many people are getting one without the other, which explains something strange. Why can you spend an entire weekend resting and still feel exhausted on Monday? Because exhaustion isn't always physical. Sometimes it's cognitive. Your body stayed still. Your attention didn't. Now here's the part most people never think about. Researchers once conducted a strange experiment. Participants were given two options. They could sit alone with their thoughts, or press a button that delivered an electric shock. Not a dangerous shock, just an unpleasant one. And some people chose the shock. Think about that. Given the choice between silence and discomfort, they chose discomfort. Not because pain felt good, because being alone with their own thoughts felt worse. That experiment reveals something uncomfortable. Many of us are no longer avoiding boredom. We're avoiding stillness. The moment nothing is demanding our attention, we reach for something. A screen, a notification, a conversation, anything. And every time we do, the cycle continues. More input, more switching, more unfinished thoughts, more mental tabs left open. And eventually, those tabs start costing you. Focus becomes harder. Motivation becomes weaker. Conversations feel draining. Things you used to enjoy start feeling like obligations. Life doesn't necessarily become worse, but it begins to feel duller. And that's when many people make a mistake. They assume they need more stimulation, more videos, more content, more entertainment, more noise. But adding stimulation to an overloaded mind is like adding more browser tabs to a computer that's already struggling. For a moment, everything feels active, then everything slows down. The uncomfortable truth is that most people aren't suffering from a lack of energy. They're suffering from a lack of recovery. Their attention is being used every waking minute, and attention is not an unlimited resource. Which brings us back to the original question. Why are you always tired? Maybe it's not because you're lazy. Maybe it's not because you're weak. Maybe it's not even because you're sleeping too little. Maybe it's because your brain never gets a chance to stop, never gets a chance to close the tabs, never gets a chance to recover. And if that's true, then your exhaustion isn't the problem, it's the signal. A signal that your attention has been divided into so many pieces that almost nothing is left for your own life. And the scariest part? Most people won't notice it's happening, because by the time exhaustion becomes normal, it stops feeling like a warning.